All right, what I want you to look at today is human population growth. So, we've looked at population growth for a lot of other things, looking at birth rates and death rates and migration. With human population growth, it's just a little bit different. So, when we're talking just about humans, we're talking about demography. So, demography being a study of human populations and how human populations have grown. We can look at how they've grown in the past and we can predict how they're going to grow in the future. This is something that's usually done country by country. And what we're going to use to look at how the country has grown, is growing, and will grow, birth rates and death rates, and then something new called age structure. And we'll play around with that in a little bit. So, on the next slide, we're going to look at the human population and historically how we've gotten to the point where we are today. But what we're going to see is that the human population was in a very long lag period. So if we go back and use those terms, exponential and logistic, we're talking about um, that period at the bottom of the J in exponential growth. So a very, very long lag period. And what you're looking at here are the reasons why there was such a very long lag period. Um, the birth rates were high, but the death rates were equally as high. So you saw almost a flat line. And we see some of the reasons why. Life was just harder. So, lack of medical care, it's like, what was medical care back then? There wasn't any. Lack of sanitation, there was no sanitation. And then food supplies were not always reliable. So, as you look at this, we're going from a time period of being hunters and gatherers to the age of agriculture, and then we see the line kind of going up there a bit, but we're not even up to 500,000,000 people. And then there's this significant dip with the bubonic plague. So, a series of illnesses. Ultimately, a lot of it was linked to the Oriental rat flea and the transmission from that flea to mice to people. And so we see that dip there in the population. But then eventually we see the rebound with the Industrial Revolution. And with that becomes um, medical advances. And then with the medical advances, we just see the population skyrocketing exponentially. So there were more reliable food supplies after we learned how to grow things and store things. And the medical advances, a big one, antibodies around in the 50s, vaccinations, emergency rooms, water sanitation. So basically, life is easier and safer. Now, I'm going to give you a chance so you can look at this and kind of record some of these things for yourself at looking at the birth rates and the death rates and why those death rates started to drop. So, the reasoning that we saw the rebound in the population growth after the bubonic plague is a decrease in the death rate. So, the birth rates remained high, the death rates started to drop for all the reasons that we mentioned below, and you see them there on the right side. So, can this type of exponential growth go on forever? No, it cannot. And what we're looking for, what we're waiting for, is a shift called demographic transition. So, a shift from having high birth rates, high death rates, to first having high birth rates and then lowering the death rate. So, we'll see what this transition entails in just a second.